DCD Media is one of the UK's largest independent production and distribution groups, making and delivering high quality TV, DVD and also new media worldwide. Let's find out more now about the company with the Chief Executive, Sammy Nourmand. Sammy, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You've only just been appointed as CEO of the group from within, of course it has to be said. It's clear that DCD Media is a very busy company. Tell us a little bit more about your strategy.
Historically, traditionally, DCD Media has been a one-stop shop where you can go where someone can have a program made, can have program distributed, they can have the ancillary rights exploited, whether it's merchandising, publishing, and that's very much the way we're pushing forward. However, I think the future strategy is going to be concentrating a lot more on our core values, which are basically content production and rights exploitation. I think in the past we may have diversified a little bit more than was necessary. We've dabbled in classical music, we've dabbled in programs about botany, we've dabbled in doing DVDs with German heavy metal rock bands, but I think we're very much going to focus on the UK and the US television market moving forward and exploiting those rights from the content.
There seems to be an awful lot more revenue, or the revenue seems to be growing from the US side of the business. Do you anticipate that continuing?
There are a lot of opportunities in the US where we have two long-running series, one of which is Bridezillas on women's entertainment, the other one is Billy the Exterminator on A&E. And that has created more opportunities for growth, so we will pursue those, but not to the detriment of our local market.
Well, Bridezillas has been going, what, 10, 12 years now, isn't it?
It's season 9 is currently in production. I think we've made about 170 odd hours, which are all distributed to our rights division, DCD Rights. And I hope that it continues for another 9 or 10 years. It's
going back to your latest set of results, your then Chief Executive spoke about the challenges you face by the decline in domestic programming commissioning. Is this decline cyclical, or is it a general trend or decline?
I think trading conditions in UK TV have been difficult in the last couple of years, but I think these things are cyclical. When you look at UK broadcasters, I think ITV, who announced their results yesterday, had been very challenged in recent times, but they have converted a £600 million deficit into a £45 million cash surplus. I think Sky goes from strength to strength. I think that Channel 4 is very stable now. So I think there are lots of opportunities in the UK marketplace that were necessarily not there 1 or 2 years ago.
What do you perceive as the challenges?
Challenges are probably reduction in tariff and revenues, fewer hours of original content being commissioned. But saying that there are more outlets now than there ever were with satellite television and all the doors that opens. So.
You mentioned some of the bigger players and how they're coping. Amongst the smaller players, what's going on within the market? There is much consolidation, or are companies finding it so tough in some quarters that they're just having to give up?
I think generally there are 3 tiers of production businesses. There are those which are lifestyle businesses. They tend to turn over maybe £3 million a year. They have one principal and they generally have a very low overhead and they find it easy to survive. You then have the larger companies that have a lot of output and a lot going through and have scale, and they can generally survive. It's generally the companies that fall in the middle that suffer, those who have ambitions to have larger scale but don't necessarily have that at the moment. And they tend to be the companies that struggle the most. That said, I think it's like any other industries. You're going to have some companies that are going to fail and others that are going to succeed. We've just...
You've spoken about the content production side of the business, which I believe is about, what, 3/4 to almost 80% of the business, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, the majority of the business is content production.
On the other side of the business, the distribution side, what's going on there at the moment? And will it remain as small in terms of proportion as it is at the moment?
Distribution is a growing market, and a lot of that has to do with the challenges that broadcasters are facing globally, because it's cheaper to acquire programming and to put that programming on screen than it is to pay for original content. So I see distribution playing a far bigger part in the business moving forward. The world is also a very small place, and having a good distribution operation helps you identify successful formats in other territories that can be optioned and produced in the UK or in the US markets. One
final question is about the stock. Anybody looking at the movements in the stock, you've seen this uplift recently, I think way from just over a penny. But I understand that 77% of the stock is currently held by institutions and directors of the company, which gives rise to a relatively illiquid stock on the exchange. Are there any plans to change this at all?
I run the PLC. I can't really control who buys and sells the stock. I think what I can say is that we're very lucky to have institutional shareholders like Henderson, who have been very supportive and have taken an interest in our business, to have strategic shareholders like Thai Communications in Israel, with whom we'd like to work more closely, and TimeWeave, who recently bought a lot of convertible loan notes in the group, and we're having active discussions with them about synergies and growth for the future, and how we can mutually benefit from their involvement.
Okay, Sammy, thanks for joining us. Taking a look at DCD Media is the Chief Executive, Sammy Nourmand.
This film is for educational and leisure purposes only. Proactive Investors does not provide investment advice. The company is a publisher and is not registered with or authorized by the Financial Services Authority. Please refer to the full terms and conditions on the Proactive Investors website.